Hi, how are you today? Today I'm going to be making a pair of coasters, and I will be setting a pair of champagne flutes into the wet resin so that they are a coaster wine glass combination. I have not done these before, and I've only seen one video of this process, so basically I'm figuring this out as I go. I'm using Ranger ink in Stream, and I'm using a mixture of teal glitters that I purchased from the dollar store, just a fine glitter. And I'll also be using a Just Paint mica pigment. This is in the color Navajo. This is probably my favorite teal color that I have. So I wasn't quite sure how I was going to go about this. I had a few ideas on making the coaster and then inserting the glass after the coaster was made, or putting the glass in and pouring the resin around it. I ended up deciding I'm going to do a little bit of both. I'm going to put down a little bit of the glitter resin and then set the glass on top of that and then pour the rest of the resin around the base of the glass. So that's the process that I'll be using here today. One of the takeaways that I learned that I thought I'll have to do next time is pour this little bit of resin down first, get rid of the bubbles, and then let it set for a little bit, because as I heat it up with my gun to get rid of the bubbles and I set my glasses in right away, the resin is less viscous at that point because I've heated it up, I've warmed it up and made it softer, and my glasses kind of slide around, move around a little bit too much, which you'll see. I'll be correcting that a few times throughout this video to get those, to keep the glasses back into the center. So I know my biggest challenge for this whole thing is going to be making sure that I don't end up with a bubble at the bottom of the glass, at the underside of the glass, because the foot of the glass underneath has that convex shape to it, and it's a perfect scenario for creating a big air bubble underneath there. So I try to set the glass at an angle and then slowly lower it down and try to push out any air out the side as I'm, tilting the base of that glass into the resin. And at this point, it looks like I managed to do that. But we'll see when I unmold them. So another good takeaway that I learned in this process was to not use plastic wrap. I put plastic wrap around the glass because I wanted to protect it from any, resin mess. If I had resin on my hands or resin on my gloves, that I'm not getting resin onto my glass. But I ended up touching the plastic with my heat gun and melted the plastic, of course. So I think next time what I'll do is use like a heat proof something, either probably like an aluminum foil or even, some parchment paper with tape, and just to protect that glass and not have something that's going to melt under my heat gun. It would work with the plastic if you weren't completely klutzy like I am. So just adjusting those glasses because they're slipping around just a little bit there. I mixed up probably about 4 ounces of resin. I knew I wasn't going to need 6 ounces for these coasters. Normally they're 3 ounces each, but with the foot of the glass taking up a lot of the area there, I didn't figure I would need I knew I wasn't going to need the 6 ounces. And I mixed up 4 thinking that I would be able to go back and do my regular top coat after the initial cure. So with my tripod sitting there, it's a little bit awkward to get the resin down, but not a big deal. The resin that I'm using is crystal resin. It is a US product, but we do have a Canadian distributor up here in Canada. They're out in Ontario. I will be leaving the links for everything that I can, the crystal resin, the Just Paint mica pigments, and also the coasters that I'm using. The coasters are from a Canadian mold maker. She has an Etsy shop with all different kinds of molds and stuff, and they're great molds. I will leave links for all of those items. So I have seen other artists make these glasses, coasters. What are these? Coaster glasses? Glass coasters, mashup things? I don't even know what to call them. But the ones that I've seen other artists do, they're quite fancy. They use I've seen a lot where they use crystals and stones and other kinds of dimensional inclusions and stuff, and they're super pretty. But for the first time that I'm making them, I just wanted to keep it really simple, use a really pretty color, and with the intention that these probably aren't going to end up being perfect the first time around. I'll probably end up keeping them myself. And teal is tied for first place for my favorite color. So this is completely a test flight for this process for me. If you know of any other videos or people that show how these are made, please let me know, because I would like to see how others are making these. So I'm just going around with a craft stick. I had a few spots where the resin wasn't wanting to run over the glass very well, so I go back in with my craft stick and just move that resin around and try to make sure that it's covering up the base of the stem there. And as usual, I babysit these for a little while, probably for about 15 or 20 minutes, just making sure I get rid of any bubbles. The next day I go to unmold. The resin set up really well, and so far they're looking really pretty. I love this color. They come out of the molds super easy, not a problem with these molds at all. And yeah, they're pretty cute. Inspecting the bottom of this one is solid, but I do see a fairly good size bubble. I noticed it at the bottom. It was slightly noticeable at the top. I didn't end up doing a flood coat on these ones. There just wasn't enough room in the mold. And unfortunately on this one, there's a really good size hole at the bottom. I don't know what happened there. But I'm going to try to go back in with probably my casting resin and a syringe and see if I can fill up that hole and fix that and just patch it and fix it. But I'm actually really happy with how these turned out. The color, of course, is beautiful. Can't go wrong with my favorite mica. That Navajo Just Paint mica is beautiful. And I think I'm going to have to try these again because they're really cute. and the smaller coasters that I used are just the right size. Let me know what you think in the comments. Thanks for hanging out. Bye.